Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and just when you think the sick minds behind Avengers Endgame and Infinity War have gone dark enough with rejected story ideas about Thanos decapping Cap, Marvel head Kevin Feige makes a little cameo to explain how things were almost far more sickening. How did Feigers make us all feel super uncomfortable this news cycle? And what does it tell us about the alternate directions Avengers Endgame almost went, and how those directions would have altered other alternate directions that we thought the Endgame story almost went? Spoiler warning, because not saying so feels like not putting on a seatbelt, and sometimes jerk around so much in these episodes I get motion sickness. So buckle in and let's break this down. Okay, in response to the Endgame screenwriters, Eminem gushing about morbid alternate scene ideas at Comic-Con, and the Endgame directors, R&R, blabbing in a Reddit AMA about supposedly still hidden Easter eggs. Yeah, okay, I guess I'll just watch it for the 3,000th time. Lowell Feigers gave an interview of his own, revealing that not only was the screenwriter's idea of Thanos decapitating Cap a legit concept that they considered for the film, that concept art of this image existed, and it depicted a different timeline and went in a much darker direction. Here's what he said. Enjoy the impression. "I think there are behind the scenes pictures of this. Us having the giant omnibus of the Infinity Gauntlet collection and saying, we need to do justice to this. One of those was Thanos sitting on a throne of skulls, ruling over everything, and we wanted to get that in there. One of the ideas was when they finished the time heist, they returned to a world in 2023 that Thanos had already conquered. That involved all of that, and the throne made of bones and skulls and had him tossing like a bowling ball Captain America's severed skull head, still in the cowl, and it was pretty cool, but the logic to get there defeated us." Bracket end impression for now. When asked how close this got to appearing on screen, Feigers said, and diving back into the voice here, forgive me, "I think it ended up in a set of pages at one point in the script. There might have been a piece of concept art somewhere with it." Oh man, oh man. While we don't yet have any official Marvel Studios concept art, this idea might have been inspired by the image of Thanos by comic book artist Jim Chung. Super gnarly. I just love that Feige went into further description of this imagery, tossing Cap's head like a bowling ball, a skull of it still in the cowl, which means he must have cut off Cap's head, removed the cowl, held onto it, peeled all of the tissue off of the skull, and then put the cowl back on like a jack-o'-lantern lid. Yeah, insane. And yes, a throne of skulls. We'll talk about how weird that throne would be in a bit, but as a nerd, here's what I find most interesting about Feige's lol description. According to him, Thanos was already waiting for the Avengers back in the present day by the time they returned from their time heist. Like, Thanos got back there first. But in the version of the scene described by the screenwriters, Thanos decapitated Cap from a different timeline, his original source timeline in 2014, wrecking Earth in that timeline, and let's not forget, leaving a giant shit-stained corpse of Hank Pym sprawled across the landscape. Their words, remember Eminem said,
Thanos had, knowing it would take his nebula some time to go, rejigger the time machine to bring him back. And so he went down to his present day Earth, which would be 2014?
14 probably, yeah.
And wiped it out and killed the Avengers. And then Nebula would turn on the time machine, he would walk through with the Avenger he had killed and go, I killed you again.
Right.
What are you gonna do about it?
So then Thanos would jump from that point in history to the present day, towing along Cap's rotting severed head, punting it, or I guess, yeah, bowling the strike with it to freak out the recently returned the Avengers and say, I killed all you once, I can kill you again. But with this idea of a throne of skulls in 2023, Feige is saying that Thanos must have done some additional slaying in the present day while he was waiting for them to finish the time heist. Or like he killed a bunch of people in 2014 and then carried all of their skulls and bones into the future, which would be a pretty annoying chore for the Black Order and the Outriders. Sire, these skulls are heavy and hard to carry. Can't we just leave them here in the past? I want production value. I want my bone throne! But if Thanos did get these skulls from the present day, which of the humans on Earth at that time could have been among the victims? Pepper Potts and Cassie Lang forming the armrests? Okoye and M'Baku forming the back? Is Thanos popping a squat and laying hot ones into the skull of Happy Hogan? Now, I guess we aren't sure if this would be the literal skulls of the dead, but rather like a creepy illusion that Thanos would to conjure using the Reality Stone. Because Feige also went on to explain, going back at the voice here, I would keep opening the book and saying, saying, we need something like this. Thanos can do this. Some of that led to things that you saw in Infinity War and Nowhere, where he turns Drax into a pile of cubes, or he turns Nebula into that spiraling ribbon, or he has bubbles come out of Star-Lord's gun. His casual, sadistic use of the stones was something that we kept wanting to do. So essentially, the Skull Throne was intended to be a kind of mind game by Thanos. Based on how the Reality Stone seems to operate in other ways in Infinity War, it seems to manipulate reality in the form of temporary illusions like Drax into blocks, Mantis into ribbons, Quill's blaster bolt into bubbles, and when Thanos left Nowhere with Gamora, all of that went back to normal. And by the way, it totally didn't need to. The Reality Stone is an Infinity Stone. When an Infinity Stone warps reality to make it blocks, it should stay blocks. But it sounds as though in these older versions of the Infinity War and Endgame scripts, the Reality Stone had a much darker permanence to its effects. It's possible that the skulls of Thanos' throne were going to be actual skulls of characters we knew, of other past victims of his, or skulls he summoned from nearby graves. In any case, still super morbid and in no way comfortable to sit on. Do you think Thanos should have gotten his bone throne in Avengers Endgame? And do you wish the Reality Stone was used in more interesting ways than blocks, ribbons, and bubbles? Comment down below with your thoughts. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Erik Voss, and subscribe to New Rockstars for breakdowns and theories about everything Marvel. Thank you for joining me, and while writing this episode, I, no joke, wrote the word skull as Skrull. Pretty much every time. That's right, I still haven't given up on my Skrull search, and I will not stop until I find whose Skrull is the skull. Reverse that. All of that went back to normal. And by the way, it totally didn't need to. Reality Stone is an